Hey YouTube, Brian, LCS. Thanks for stopping by the channel and this video, what's killing the comic book industry. So today we're going to look at some of the trends that have been happening in the comic book hobby. We're going to start with some data because I think a lot of the community paints the picture that the industry is failing, but I'm not sure if that is true. When we look at this data, and now this is from Comic-Con and ICV2. And I'll leave a link for this information down below so you can take a closer look at it for yourself. We're looking at overall sales estimates in North America for the last, I think this is 12 years. And so out of those 12 years, we're seeing growth every year except for one. There was a little setback in 2017. In 2016, there was a $1 billion worth of sales, 1 billion 0.085, and then in 2017 there was a 1 billion 0.015. So a little bit of a setback, but then you see 2018, 19, 20, and so on. Every year there's growth, and the market share is increasing. But you can see this data stops in 2022. And I think that is really where some of these things are happening in the market and in the hobby, because we don't have data. We don't have any hard data that we can look at and say what is happening over the last 2 years. No data from 2023 and 2024. And the main reason that that is an issue and why we don't have this data is that there's really no reporting, one place that this data can be reported. I think we've all heard the news recently about Diamond Distributors filing for bankruptcy. And that was, Diamond used to be the sole source provider for all of comic books to all different shops. And they were a single source of the data, and they used to provide that data. But there was a change in 2022. We have Penguin Random House, we have Lunar, we have other distributors that have entered the game of comic books. And they don't supply data. They don't share their sales data. And so we really don't know what the state of the industry is right now from a sales data-driven perspective. And so, and then obviously there's been some recent news with Diamond, like I said, filing for bankruptcy. And now they're filing for bankruptcy protection, which means that they're looking for to restructure and hopefully bring in some money and be able to survive. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go out of business right away. It could lead to that, but they're trying to do a bankruptcy protection to restructure and come out on the other side more of a streamlined business. So we'll see what happens. There certainly will be some short-term impacts. For weeks now, if not months, we've been seeing some issues. Diamond had closed down a site, one of their distribution sites, and it impacted delivery of comics. And I've heard things from LCS owners. My own LCS owner has been delayed, and he's saying they're shipping incorrect amounts of books. They're invoicing him or sending books COD, which they never do. They would always invoice after the fact. So there's a lot of things that are happening with Diamond that we really don't know how it's going to play out, but we'll see that in the future. So I think that's one of the big issues with the comic book industry right now is there's no really, we don't have any data. We don't have any true facts to be able to say whether the industry is, progressing or failing. We really just don't know, and when you think about it, you think about the hobby itself. There are a lot of things that the hobby is competing with, right? You think of it from a younger point of view, a younger reader's point of view. We have, video games, we have manga, we have streaming services, right? We have so much original content that you can, put your eyeballs on. And so there's a lot of things that are pulling at our free time and our attention. And so I'm not surprised that a physical book is being, a paper book is being kind of left behind or lower on that priority list for some people. You think of younger readers, they have grown up. If you're a teenager today, you've grown up with the internet. you've grown up with a phone, a smartphone, a tablet. And so their eyeballs are not so much on, physical media. They're used to digital. And so could digital reading of comics in the future really be an impact? Because your base of potential new customers, all they know is digital media and getting their forms of entertainment that way. So it'll be interesting to see. I think those are some of the challenges that the comic book industry is facing today. All of these different types of entertainment that are out there that are pulling new readers away from physical printed comic books. So how do we fix it? What can be done to recover the comic book industry if in fact it is failing, right? I'm not clear it is. I go to an LCS at least once a week. I see plenty of people there buying books, having pull lists, things like that. So I'm not sure. Without the absence of the data, it's tough to really get a sense for, if it is truly failing. But with that said, what could be done if it is failing? What could be done? How do we fix it? I think there's a couple things, and certainly this is my opinion. I think we need to create a jumping in point, right, for young readers. We hear this all the time, right? There's so much history with the current comic books, and some of the big characters, Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, have been around for decades. And so it can be a little intimidating, daunting for a new reader to jump in and then, get hit with all of these different backstories and history that maybe they're not up to speed on. And it just doesn't, it doesn't give them a soft landing spot to jump into a new book. So I think that's a real thing, because I know when I read comic books, you get those little asterisks that refer to another comic book issue or another event that has happened in the past as a point of reference. And, sometimes that can be confusing. And so, I think the comic book industry needs to strike this balance with these older characters, right? Some of the readers of long time, like I'm a reader of Spider-Man, a long-time reader. There's complaints that there's no character growth, right? That Spider-Man, Peter Parker is the same he's been for the last, 50 years, 60 years, that we're not seeing him develop, him not have some wins. And so I think what the big two could do, Marvel and DC, if they could embrace more limited series, and not for every character. I don't think having just Spider-Man be in comics in limited series would be a good thing. I think we still need to have an ongoing series, for some of those big characters, Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. But maybe for some of the lesser characters, having more limited series. And I think we've seen this in the indie world, where indie comics are having success with, short stories, 4-issue, 6-issue, 8, 10, 12-issue run of these stories. They're providing these stories, and there's no long-term commitment that you have to get into as a collector. So I think that is a possibility, and the limited series gives an easy spot for new readers to jump in. And I think if we could tie that, if Marvel and DC could tie that to some of the things that are happening in the cinematic universe or in the TV universe, you potentially could draw in more readers, because those readers, maybe somebody seeing the new Superman movie that's coming out this year, maybe that's a spot to introduce a limited series that kind of ties into that book and helps those new readers that maybe are seeing the film for the first time to be able to jump into comics. So I think that's one of the things that the industry could embrace. Now, I understand collectors saying, well, I don't want the reboots of certain characters. And I understand that from a collecting perspective and a history perspective. But I think it's more important to start thinking about the overall and the future of the comic books, right? And so having limited series, I just think it makes it easier for new readers to jump in. Those are some of the things I think that could help us, right? Having the true sales data, and then maybe changing the way we are providing new books today to new readers. So, but let me know what you think. What do are comic book sales in trouble? Do we know, in fact, that the industry is tanking and sales are bad? I've seen some year-over-year data, a small sample that suggests the number of comic book sales were down from 2023 to 2024, but it was a very small sample size, and so with the absence of that data, I'm not really sure. I think the only thing we can base it on is our experience out in the shop. So let me know down in the comments what you think the state of comic book sales are. And then what are some of the things that maybe the industry could do differently or change to help maybe jumpstart the sales if they are truly failing. So that's what I got for you today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next video.